So welcome to our Manaaki Tangata app. This is the first screen that you'll see when you open it. And you can see I'm just going to show you here on an iPad, but it can work on any device, whatever you've got at your event. So let's begin. I've loaded up on here a test, but I will just do another one. So I'll just go on to test type. You can obviously, once you purchase the app, you can use it as many times as you like, as many events that you like. So I will just call this Geneva test, and we're going to create the hui. Now, so you'll see once we create the hui, all of the details that you can, all of the parts of the app just show up. You can see down here how we can have your export, because we don't back up any of the information. I don't see any of this information that you have on here. It's all on saved on your actual device. So if you want to share it or anything, or use it across devices, please make sure you export it. And we also have a separate export for receipts only, because if you're taking photos of receipts during the event, you know, that can use up a lot of memory. So we have them a separate export download. And so it's all there. It's got the guide, so you can download the guide on actually how to work this, which is here. So it's easier, I don't use my hands, or if it's just easier to. So here's the full guide. If you actually want to sort of read through it, it's there. And then we also have just a range of resources, helpful resources for different events. It's just got lots of links here, etc. So you can access some additional resources there that's available. Now we'll just go back to this. So as you can see, if you look down the bottom here, I'll just move this out a little bit. If you look down the bottom, these are all the parts of the app. And I've tried to make it as logical as I can think of for when you're actually running the hui, the things that you'll walk through. So I will just go through these tabs now and explain how it all works. So Kaupapa, you put in all the details, because it's important if you do put the details in here about your event, because then you'll see it'll map over to other parts of the app and also to the reporting. So, however detailed you want it to be, all of this information will then transfer over. So let's say you got all your details. You can put in the date of it. So if you're going to start, if it's going to be an event happening next week, for example, and however many days it's going to be. So if it's just because then you can actually have tabs that'll have sort of for multiple dates, the number of days, if you've got an idea about how many, and all the accounts. So if you put the account details there, it'll then map over into this pānui section. So a lot of people like to put out a post about your event. This has just got some helpful prompts, give you an idea about some information that you want to put out on a post. And then it's a lot easier than to just share it on social media. And then if you want to keep track of if it's a discussion, especially if it's a Tangihanga and you're still trying to decide all the details, you can then start sort of mapping out, okay, this is what the program's going to look like. And then you'll be able to copy it and send it, print it, share it, however you want to get that out there. Now, I've got a Mahi checklist, but it's up to you in terms of, we've put in some examples of activities that I'm familiar with, and especially in Tangihanga. And if that doesn't apply to you, well then, hey, you just need to delete it. But if it does, then you might want to think about, oh, okay, I've still got to, for example, I've still got to book the minister, so I won't click on that because I've still got to do it. But I have actually contacted the marae, and you'll see up here how that just changed. So all of the activities that I've said for myself I'm actually going to do, it'll start to tick them off as I do them. But let's say, no, I don't need to do that. Let's just say I don't need to do that. I don't need to do that, for example. But I'm not going to do that. But I have got all of this done. That's been done. That's been done. Yes, I do need to do that. That's been done. And so you'll see it's starting to tick off. So you can just keep track of things. And then if you've actually got some other specific tasks you need done. So if you want to say, oh, before the hui, I need to get some photos printed, for example. You're going to add that task, and then you'll see it'll pop up within the before the hui tab. So now you've got photos printed. So just if you like to sort of keep a track of all the mahi that you need to get done, this is a good reminder and a checklist. And then if you need to have, say like you need to have a whānau meeting about something that's occurred, you put in the details, when you're going to have it, what time, where it's going to be, who was all present, for example, and what was decided. I don't know, let's say we're going to use marriage photo, example, action items, and then who's going to actually do it, and then we'll say Geneva to print. photo. Okay, and we're going to save that record, right? And that record, and why this, you'll see as we go on further in the app, all of this information is then being saved into a final report. Okay, then we say, look, so all the costs that you're going to incur for this event. So you can either set a budget, or you can just keep a track of all the expenses as they go. So let's say you want to set like a rough budget. So you want to say, okay, it's going to be 300. These are just obviously very rough details. 1,000, hire just 200, example. I'll just say 200. Okay, right. And then that's the budget that you've set, hopefully, so you're going to work to that. And then let's say as things occur, like let's say you've paid for something, you can then just add it, add the photo and it'll scan the receipt. Or let's say, what did I say? You've got some food, so let's say, I don't know, $100 and okay, let's say you've just bought something from Countdown and it's, I don't know, morning tea, example. How did you pay for it? So I've got, like I said, I've got a lot of drop down boxes so you can keep track of things. We're going to say that's part of the catering. Yes, you do have the receipt. And yep, and we're going to add that expense. Now what's going to happen then, now if we go back to your budget, you'll see here, you can see now how it's already kept track. Well, you did set that was going to be your budget and you've already spent $100 and you've got that tracked. Okay, so then now we're going to go into koha. So let's say, you know, you got, because there can be cash koha or non-cash. So let's say, okay, let's just say somebody gives a koha $200. Let's just say Michael is given a cash of $200, and they're given $200. And how they did that is they actually put it into the bank. They did a bank transfer, so it's not cash, it's bank. And they gave it to me before the hui, and I need to give them an electronic receipt. This is very common because a lot of people, you always forget, people just don't have receipt books. So let's just say I need to actually send them an electronic receipt. I'm going to add that here, and now you'll see, yeah, because it says no receipt, I actually need to send it to them, right? So now I'm going to go on to print receipt, or I'm going to copy the receipt so that I can actually send it. And you'll see here, this, I can make that bigger so you can see that. But you'll see here, these details, it's already created a receipt. So all the details that you put relating to the hui, it'll have it all there, who it's to exactly, and then it's ready to go. You can either just copy and send it, print it, or, you know, and if you're on your phone or anything, you just literally just copy and send it directly to them, whether it's through Messenger or email, etc. So it just gives you that option. Now, if we go back to the app, so no need to worry about trying to find a receipt book. And then let's say, okay, let's say somebody else, let's call this person J, gives you, okay, here's an example, gives you some baked, let's say they've given you some home baking for this morning tea. Home baking, items to return, we'll just say there's a clear bin that it came in, container with name on it. Okay, when did that come in? That came in before the hui. And then I'm going to add that entry. And what happens when I add that entry? So the details come up about what actually happened, but it also gives me a reminder that I need to actually return the item at the end of the hui. So you'll see at the end when we produce the report, it just gives you a bit of a like, adds to your task list. Okay, because the worst thing is when things happen during an event and you forget, oh no, I've got to do this, I've still got to actually return that. And, you know, people want to get their stuff returned. Now, support people, you can put all of your key contacts. So if it was if it was a tangihanga, you know, the funeral home, etc., there will be important details to keep. Who's going to be the minister? Yeah, if it's a different type of event, then there's, you know, photographer, etc. You can put all of their details here, and then you can actually share all of them. Okay, let's just have an example. You can actually share all their details. So let's say Mary is a photographer and jane.com, I don't know, I'm going to add that contact because then you can actually copy and share it. So let's say if you're organising this event and there's a few of you doing stuff with a whānau, you can say, okay, look, here's all their details, you know, and you're going to delegate some jobs. This is a way that you can actually have all their details in, and then you can share that information. There's lots of times you're having all these different contact details on Facebook posts and in Messenger, and it just gets really messy. Try to keep them all into one place. And then let's say if you want to have one thing that is common is people will have an event, especially if it's Tangihanga, and you'll want to thank and acknowledge people after the event. And it's hard to do that if you're not sure who was all there, because, you know, if you're not in the back, or if you haven't seen who's sort of coming and going. So this just lets whoever's doing the organising of the event just a space where you can actually record things. So let's say, okay, let's say somebody came in and they helped clean up and you didn't see that, and we'll just call this person John Blog, and let's just say they'd I don't know, they water blasted exterior before event or something like that. I don't know, whatever you want to do. And you can then think, okay, how am I going to acknowledge them afterwards? And I've just given some options. You can have a shout, you know, if you just something you might want to think about doing, it's up to you. But then if you haven't done it yet, so we'll just take that off. You can then just keep track of all of these different people who are doing things during the event, and you can just add them, right? And it'll come up to say pending, because it's just a reminder to you, just so that you can decide later on, you know, all whānau do it differently, whether you want to send a thank you card, public, you know, whatever. At least you've got a track of who it is that you actually need to remember to acknowledge. Then we're going to go down to the final part, which is hopefully the most helpful part of the app, because whether you're using this you know, for work purposes or for tangihanga or any kind of whānau event, this is the information. So you can see as we've been tracking the information, you know, this is the koha that's come in, this is, you know, what we've spent, this is how our budget is tracking. It's a reminder to you here. We know we did that just before. You've got an item that you're going to need to return, somebody who gave you baking. You've got to keep track of all of the mahi that you've been tracking, and you say, okay, well, I've done about 4 of the 14 things I said I was going to do. And then you can either, you know, copy the report, or you can print it. And you don't need to do anything. And look, that's what let's get that off. Oh, there's the full example of the copy receipt. I didn't see that. Okay, so there's the report. So you don't need to do anything. So if you're, you know, type of whānau that likes to give a bit of a breakdown, an update, you don't need to do anything else. Once you enter everything, it all just starts to compile itself into this report so that it is ready made. So at the end of your event, or if you're stepping in and helping a whānau during the tangihanga or something, so that they're not stressed with it, and, you know, at the end of it, you can go back to your whānau member and go, look, here, this is how everything worked. This is all the money that came in. This is everything. These are the expenses. Look, these are all the people you might not have seen. They were all behind the back. They were helping out, whatever you want to do. Reminder, this is all the mahi that we got done. You know, this is just a record for the whānau hui, etc. Everything is there. So you don't need to redo anything. You don't need to be adding things up at the end of the hui, trying to reconcile everything. As soon as you just put everything into the app as it happens, then it'll produce the report. So this is what I think is going to be really helpful for many people who end up, you know, leading from the back, who are very busy behind the scenes. You're doing so much, and hopefully an app like this will be able to help you. Any part-time, let me know, put in the comments. Kia ora.